Hey there, it's Mandee Montana. Are you taking great care of your skin? You know I use great products. I take my vitamins and I drink plenty of water, but I could be better about applying sunscreen daily and making sure my skin is protected against premature aging. What about you? Well, I've got great news. I have a solution. It's the new Premium Diamond Glow Treatment at Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler. I love it. I went recently and it exfoliates and hydrates your skin at the same time. Amazing, right? My skin feels so soft and silky after. You have to try it. If you've never had a facial before, they have different options at Hand and Stone, like hydrating and brightening. But if you're struggling with dark spots, hyperpigmentation, sun damage, sallow skin, enlarged pores, or maybe oily skin, this is the treatment for you. If you want your skin to glow and look and feel amazing, book the Diamond Glow. Schedule now by visiting Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in the Cumberland Shopping Center in Tyler or online at handandstonetyler.com. Welcome to the Celebrating Women podcast, hosted by Mandee Montana, a podcast that celebrates women, their stories, their struggles, and ability to overcome. Conversations that celebrate their gifts, their talents, and courage. It's the Celebrating Women podcast, presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. With over 20 massage therapists and 6 estheticians certified and trained in multiple protocols, you can get an affordable massage or facial
I'm Mandee
located
Montana
right
with
here
my
in the
special
East
guest
Texas
today,
area.
Brandy
Book your
Flanagan.
appointment today.
Brandy and
Stop
I
by the
recently
spa in the
met.
Cumberland
She
Shopping Center
is
in
not
Tyler
only an incredible
or
woman, but she
online
serves our
at
communities in a lot of ways. She's the mayor of
handandstonetyler.com.
Gladewater, and you also do work with the Small Business Development Council. Is that correct?
Right. It's the Small Business Development Center.
Center, excuse me.
So we are 100% grant funded by the SBA at the federal level. And then at the state level, it's the state of Texas. And then we have to have a local resource that pays our paychecks. And that is the University of Texas at Tyler for us. So we are very grateful for all of those entities that allow us to be here to serve the 6 counties that we serve.
I think it's incredible. A lot of the women that listen to Celebrating Women are either entrepreneurs or they have some kind of small business side hustle. So when I met you, I thought, wow, what a great resource that I wasn't familiar with, but that I'd love to share. So tell me a little bit about the work that you do.
Well, so I myself was an entrepreneur for over 20 years.
Okay.
I took a couple of courses out of high school and at the local Kilgore College and just decided I wanted to jump in with, 2 feet and go strong. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that to people, but you could kind of get away with some of that back in the 90s. It's a little bit more difficult these days. But that's where I started. Fell in love with business. Fell in love. I am definitely a true born entrepreneurial spirit. We are risk takers. I always like to say that as I've gotten older, in my 40s now, that I've definitely learned how to take educated risks versus just jumping as I did back in my 20s. After 20 years of building businesses, I moved over into the private consulting realm and then started working for the Small Business Development Center back during COVID to help businesses through that ordeal. Businesses really have not been able to get out of an ordeal since COVID because we went from COVID to supply chain issues to inflation. And so I stayed on with the Small Business Development Center and did not return 100% to the private consulting world after that, just because I fell in love with the concept of what the Small Business Development Center does for small business owners. So every county in America is covered by a Small Business Development Center. We cover 6 counties. That is Harrison County, Bragg County, Upshur County, Rusk County, and then Marion County. Those are the ones that we cover. But it does not matter where you live. There is a Small Business Development Center that assists you. Basically, what we do we are business consultants that help any small business owner. And I always laugh because people assume that a small business is kind of like the mom and pop store. That is not true. Underneath the umbrella of the SBA, a small business is any business that has 500 or less employees. Well, you can imagine that is 80% of the businesses in America. So we are able to help a large scale from that mom and pop all the way up to someone that has hundreds of employees. And so whether someone is wanting to start a business, whether someone already has a business going on and there are issues going on, we help take a deep dive into that to assess what's going on and then helping you develop strategies to be able to overcome those. Whether it is wanting to launch new products and services and wanting to make sure that you do that very strategically so that you can not tank your business doing that. And then also working with businesses that are just wanting to grow and how, what strategies do they need to make sure to have for that.
And this is a free resource for businesses.
Your tax dollars already paid for it. I'll put it that way.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
We
Correct.
might as well reach out and learn
Yes,
something.
absolutely.
That's fantastic. Okay, so now I have to know, what was your first business endeavor? What bug bit you back in your 20s?
So my first one was opening up a local gym. It was just a little storefront gym that within 5 years was able to grow it to over a 10,000 square foot facility on 4 acres of land with outdoor facilities, indoor. And it's where I really cut my teeth on making the mistakes, overcoming them, how to, all of these things that I use today to help companies. It's through my own expert, through my own journey as well, and I always laugh. I have the business degrees now, to go along with it, but I always say, I learned mine through street. I mean, I was street cred person, right? And so most of, what I help businesses do are things that, I learned or even mistakes that I made and we're able to learn from those and be able to bounce back from those. You cannot be afraid to make mistakes because honestly, some of my greater successes in business happened from strategic moves that I made at the time of a mistake that was made. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to learn to just learn from every incident that happens, whether good or bad.
Yeah, I can't remember who famously said it, but I know it's a quote that you never win or lose, you learn.
That's right. And it's the truth. It is the truth. And it's a different business world today. I tell my clients all the time. I mean, back in the 90s, like we didn't have internet, we didn't have social media. Your competition was whatever was in the vicinity of where you are. We don't live in that now. And it's very important that I'm honest with business owners on that for you to truly start a business these days, you are part of a global business network now. You have competition at levels that we back 20, 25 years ago did not have. And so now you really have to know what you're doing. And so you're going to have to develop a team that includes your small business development center, your local lender, that you can work with and build that relationship with an accountant, an attorney. You've really got to develop this team around you that helps you make solid decisions so that you can be successful in today's market.
Well, and marketing is so different, right? You had the newspaper, radio, and television.
That's right.
And now, like you mentioned, website, social media, but then there's all kinds of marketplaces online too, right?
Absolutely. It's a whole different world. We're very blessed at the Small Business Development Center. The training that we receive from the federal level, from the state level, it helps us stay on top of those trends and it helps us be able to really educate our clients on how to maximize what's available to them. Although marketing has become a different beast in of itself for a business, it's usually a lot more cost effective than what it was back in the day. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of times technology isn't, something to look down on because now you're able to, for a much more affordable price, be able to reach much larger customer base than what we could back in, 20 plus years ago. But marketing is one of those things that you've either got to know what you're doing or you need to outsource that. And that's one of the things that we do is we really assess as a business owner, what are your strengths and what do you need to build your team around? Because the other thing that is no longer available is the day when the small business owner wore every hat. It's impossible to build a successful business like that now. Mm-hmm. And so it's having just those really honest discussions with people that you really need to outsource this to be able to be successful.
And when you're talking about outsourcing, that doesn't necessarily mean you're having to bring on employees, right? That means Correct. You're looking at maybe a consultant like you used to do, or an attorney or a CPA, because you're right, people have different skills. I'm a little bit more skilled at like communications. When it comes to finances, that's where I would need help. Is that kind of where you start whenever someone reaches out? Is maybe kind of an assessment around their skills and where they're headed?
Absolutely. I really want to get their concept down of what they're wanting to do,
Hmm.
and then really kind of move into what are their skill sets, what are their capabilities, what can they be taught, and what is just too far, um, that there's too big of a gap to learn. Those are the things that that you really want to assess to make sure to outsource. Financial management, especially in our East Texas region, is probably the number one education piece that's lacking. We have a lot of entrepreneurs that are out there and they have businesses. They get their profit and loss from their accounting, maybe quarterly or annually,
Hmm.
but do not know how to use that to govern their business and how to make decisions for their business. So that is one thing that we do as well, as we meet with clients quarterly and we go over those profit and loss and those balance sheets to be able to teach them what those numbers are telling them and how to develop their businesses successfully based off of numbers and research. As entrepreneurs, we have wonderful gut instincts. And I said, that's where you always start, but it is definitely not where you finish. You
Yeah.
start with a gut instinct, but with that gut instinct, you've got to make sure, be diligent in researching and making sure that the numbers prove that gut instinct.
Because they do tell a story,
Absolutely.
but if you don't know how to interpret the story,
Correct. The numbers tell you your seasonality. They tell you if you're able to, in the next quarter, make that purchase that you're wanting to. There was one client that I can remember working with, and he wanted a new company truck. And I was like, well, bring in your financials and let's look to see. And because we had at that point a year's worth of historical data for him with his profit and losses and balance sheets, we could see that upcoming quarter was going to be one of his lowest times. So he didn't need to purchase that truck at that time. He needed to wait for the quarter following to do that. So if he would have done that at that time, he would have actually hurt his business. Where if he would have just held off for one quarter, it would have been a benefit to his business. So those are the type of things that really learning those numbers will help you assess.
wow, these are things that I haven't thought of because my business is so small and it is pretty much just me on the podcast.
And that's what we call micro businesses now. So when it's
Yeah.
just a one person type of thing, those are called micro businesses.
Hmm.
And it's a lot of the same principles. You're going to have to develop a team, and some things you're going to have to outsource and allow them to teach you. But, even if you've got to outsource that financial management, to either a bookkeeper or an accountant, what's important is for you to learn what questions to ask to make sure that you're making the right decisions for your business.
Because if you hand it off to someone and just trust them to do it,
Correct.
then it may or may not actually be reaching the goals that you want it to.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. And you do all of this for people. You help
Yeah.
guide them.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah, and if it's outside of my county, I also work privately. If someone just wants to work with me, and that I do that through my private consulting side. But if it's within one of our 6 counties, that's at no charge.
that's incredible. What
Yeah.
other entrepreneurial endeavors have you had?
So I also have been into commercial property real estate, where leasing businesses, commercial buildings and things like that out, and then just other private consulting, marketing, things like that I also endeavored in.
So, what got you interested in public service? How did that transpire?
I was asked, so I've served on council for 6 years as a
Okay.
city councilwoman,
Hmm.
and there was a city councilwoman who was rolling off. She did not want to continue. She was going to be moving out of the area. And she approached me. She said, listen, I want to make sure that whoever follows me does a good job and that we retain this position for a female.
Hmm.
And so I said yes. As women, we can have differing views on things. We can have different ways of doing things. But at the end of the day, what she did was ensure that that position did not lose, that a female's voice was on that council. And, that's very important as women for us to know that we can never let personal agendas, we can never let personal attitudes, things like that dictate the decisions that we make to where we can actually lose our voice on something.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that she had the foresight to reach out to you because it is key. We do need to have a voice at the table. Were you the only woman on council at the time?
Yes. And Gladewater, this is the first time Gladewater has had a female mayor. So we're very excited to finally bust through that ceiling. And with that is a responsibility to make sure that you do a great job so that the next female behind you, that there's a confidence level for that female to be able to have, that they're not going to have to work as hard.
Yeah, I imagine you are having to overcome some hurdles and challenges.
Hey friends, it's Mandee. Have you ever wished for a protein drink that's light, refreshing, and crystal clear? Well, the wait is over. Zingular's Clear Protein Plus is finally here. With 20 grams of grass-fed whey protein isolate, 0 artificial sweeteners, and powerful digestive enzymes, this isn't your typical protein shake. It's clean, smooth, and easy on your stomach. Plus the flavors, blue raspberry and frosted lemonade. So good you won't even believe it's protein. I love how refreshing and hydrating it is, especially after a workout or a busy day. No fillers, no bloat, just clean, high-quality protein. Want to be one of the first to try it? Order now by clicking the link in show notes. Zing with Mandee. Subscribe and save to snag 10% off on this and all future subscription orders. Plus, use my code ZingWithMandee, all one word, to save $10 off your first order. It's all in the show notes. That's Zing with Mandee, XYNGWITHMANDEE. Zing with Mandee to save $10 off your first order. Click the link in show notes. Don't miss out on hitting those daily protein goals. The future of protein is clear.
It has actually been the election part was rough. That part was definitely rough. I wasn't really expecting that. But after the election, I have to say everybody has come on board, and I really have nothing negative to say about it. It has been a wonderful experience so far. We have a wonderful team at the city that makes my job really easy to be able to oversee. And the team, most of the men on the council are, I could not ask for better. So it really has been a pretty easy transition into that position.
How long have you been mayor?
Just since May.
Oh, so you're
May,
fresh into this.
yeah, May 2020. I just had my second town hall meeting. So we kind of I had one right at the first. I felt like it was really important to set the tone of what I did. And basically, I went into the city and do exactly what I do in business. It's just kind of assess to make sure all the foundational pieces are there, make sure that the right culture and environment to be able to be successful, is there. So that's what I really focused on in that first mayor's town hall meeting, was to just really establish the tone and the culture that needed to be established along with some of the foundational pieces so that we could be able to start growing and be successful. And the second one that I just had, we really were able to highlight just in the 6 months time, how much we've been able to accomplish, and then what our goals are for the next 6 months. So it's going well. I could not be happier with it.
Well, what are some of the things that you've already accomplished?
So one of the big things, like a lot of small towns, usually the biggest deterrent, remember I work in 6 counties, and in all of those 6 counties, I work with the EDCs, the city officials, the business owners. It is not just my area. It is a regional thing, but in these small communities, there is a lot of siloing that happens, and there's a lot of in-house bickering and fighting that occurs. I know from an organizational standpoint that an organization can never thrive in that environment. The first thing I did, and that I just really hit hard, was to say, look, we're not going to do things how we've done before. Everybody's got to come together. Everybody's got to work together. We're not going to talk to each other like that anymore. We're not going to handle things like that anymore. We're going to respect one another. We can differ, but we're going to do it in a respectful manner. And people were so hungry for that it caught on like wildfire. And I really pushed some directives of Team Gladewater, and that incorporated every entity within the city, whether it was our EDC, our city, our school district, our chamber, our churches, our local businesses, all the citizens. on a big, huge PowerPoint, this is Team Gladewater, this is all of us, and we're working together to accomplish these goals. And everybody started using it. And the other one was moving forward together. We can only move forward if we're going to do it together. If we keep fighting with one another, if we keep just being siloed, we're never going to be able to turn this ship around. And so just being really honest with people and really establishing that new culture, it has caught on like wildfire. And we are seeing very fast turnaround because of that. But that's even in an organization. All of these principles were the teeth were cut in the business round,
Right.
because when you go into a business, your culture cannot be to where you don't have a team mentality. There is no I, there is we. There's got to be a professionalism and a respectfulness, and all of that's got to exist, or your company will never be able to succeed. But we've had successes definitely in the culture. And then also, we really kind of put together strategic plans for different things in the city. Just like every city, infrastructure is our number one issue. It is for every town in America. And so really developing a system that could be simple and that could be carried through, making strategic budgetary alignments along with grants, and then follow through, making sure that what we do. Another thing that I really have worked hard to establish is that we're going to do everything with excellence. We're not going to band-aid things. We're not going to do that again, because so many times in an organization, people will do what's cheapest. And it's not the most cost beneficial in the long run. And it's definitely not the most beneficial to the organization. And so, even working with business owners to teach them, like, no, we don't make decisions based on what's cheapest. We make it based on what provides the best customer service in a thriving organization. And so just different things like that. My goal as mayor is to take the assets that we already have. So our parks, our infrastructure, our downtown, our rodeo grounds, our airport, all these things, and maximizing them where they're at now. Get them to just really thrive, get them to the best that they can be. And we can look at kind of bringing on some new things.
Well, you do have so much to offer. And I know you're unique in Gladewater. You're in a few counties, is that right? The city is within.
We have
Yeah.
Upshur County, Gregg County, and Smith County.
Yeah. In order for Team Gladewater to work well,
Mm-hmm.
you do have to have a great vision and strong leadership to say, we're all in this together.
Correct. Yeah, and our regional partners are key to be able to overcome some of the hurdles that we have to overcome. And we know that. And so that's why that silo effect, it does not work. And the one thing I really love about local government is that the parties are not involved. We do not have Democrat and Republican. We are all community and citizens. And it really helps to be able to bring together the climate and culture, because we don't have that type of division at the local level.
Yeah, it's incredible. I've been around local government a lot. I've never participated in it directly, but I worked with a nonprofit in Tyler, their downtown revitalization nonprofit. So I was able to interact quite a bit with people from the city of Tyler. It is amazing how well it can function. And it's also amazing how long it takes to get things done. Sometimes citizens feel like you should be able to just knock a problem out and check that box because it's important to them. But a lot of times there's a process and a system, like you're saying, because you don't want to put a Band-Aid on it and you don't necessarily want the cheapest fix. So I'm just thinking about everything that you just said, especially with infrastructure.
Yeah.
You probably do have a lot of communication pieces with that, because I imagine some of the infrastructure has to do with state because you've got a highway that runs through, right? And
Yes.
you've got the various counties, and sometimes they handle roadways. So that's a lot
Yeah,
to be dealing with.
it's a lot of puzzle pieces that you're
Yeah.
putting. And again, I'm able to maneuver in that because I have been into building businesses for so long. Because one of the things I tell my clients when they come in to first talk with me, I said, as entrepreneurs, we have the puzzle box. We have that picture. We know what we want it to look like in the end. The problem is we have to take that puzzle box off, and there's 500 to 1,000 pieces in there that we have to put together to form the vision that we see on that puzzle box. And it is the exact same thing in local government. We have the big picture in mind of what we want it to look like. Nothing is going to be accomplished with just the visionary. You've got to have the strategies, you've got to have the processes, you've got to have the plans, you've got to have all of these things. One thing that happens at the local government realm and I think it happens at the federal and the state level as well, is these are elected positions. And
Mhm.
so you run the risk of, with constant turnover like that, of nothing ever being able to progress. And so, it was one of the things that I kept trying to figure out, like, how do we get this that where when I'm gone, when other people are gone, that these plans can continue to move forward. And, through talking with some of the people that I know in other cities, we realized that what we needed to do was to adopt those plans at the city council level. And then all formal councils have to abide by those, or they have to call a meeting to say, we're no longer going to follow this. And hopefully citizens, because they've been educated through that process, hopefully they'll hold them to that, to be like, well, hey, you need to have a really good reason on why you want to do away with this and doing it. And what is your plan if you're going to do away with that plan? So that we can hopefully keep that needle moving forward
Mhm.
versus people getting upset and getting off, or, all these different things that occur through elections.
I see that with one of the nonprofits that I volunteer with too, where sometimes people will chair a position for a while and then they'll move off. And it can really change the tone and the direction of the project, even though the project is continuing. And there are some benefits to that, right? To have fresh ideas.
Mhm.
But I really appreciate your long term vision and planning because, to your point, if you do have somebody new come in that's not on board with what you're trying to accomplish, it derails the whole plan if you don't have something else in place.
It does. And it's honestly, I think, probably one of the reasons why we do not see a lot of progress in our local communities is because of that constant turnover and people coming in with their wanting to do things a certain way. And I think what we have to realize is that we can all have different approaches, but there's usually probably only one solution. We can have a
Yeah.
different approach to that solution,
Mhm.
but if the research and the strategies have really, someone has come in and really, or a team has come in to really put in the time to develop that out, we need to have that goal that that solution is reached.
So, how do you get the community on board? Because I think that's one of the things that I see missing, maybe not specifically in Gladewater, but just in general in East Texas. One of the things I've encountered is a lot of people have opinions, but they're not necessarily engaged in their community.
Well, so communication. One of you talked about your background being communication. That's
Yes.
what my bachelor's is in.
Uh-huh.
That communication is the key. It is being open, it is being transparent, it is being truthful. It is not promising things that you're not going to be able to deliver on. It's going to be able to deliver hard truths when it needs to be. That creates a confidence in people that it's and one thing that I really do is I've tried to facilitate a safe environment that, hey, we're going to attack problems, we're not going to attack people. And I've really reiterated that, we're all, a lot of us are frustrated with the problems, and I get it. So let's not make it a people thing, let's make it a problem thing. Redirecting the conversations as they happen and making it safe to where maybe used to people felt like if they voiced something, then they were going to be attacked for it and things like that. You want to create that safe place that people feel like they can voice their concerns. But one thing I don't mix phones about it is that if you're going to bring a problem, you got to be willing to be part of the solution, because too many times we have the people up in the stands that are constantly coaching from the stands versus ever getting on the field and playing. And so, that is my one requirement when somebody comes to me and wants to complain. I'm like, okay, well, are you ready to be part of the solution?
Mhm.
And 9 times out of 10, they are. And it changes how they look at it, because once they get in it, once people get in it, see, when you have council members that come on council, they're all ready to come against the government and all this stuff. And then they get in there and they realize, like, oh, these are all just normal people who really care about their community and trying to do what's right. And so I think when people get plugged in, they are actually, it makes it easier for them to get on board with it. So I think from the government standpoint, we've not always done a great job at that. We've not communicated things well. We've allowed that whole us against them mentality to perpetuate versus confront it. Go, hey, remember, we're all here together. It is not citizens against government. It is not government against citizens. It is all of us together working together to build a community that we can be happy in and thrive in, and that the future generations can.
Well, it's what you said earlier. It's a team.
It 100% is. And the citizens are part of that team. And that's what in Gladewater, they're on but what I have found is people want to get involved. They don't know how. And that's where we have to take that on, the responsibility at the city level to go, here's your opportunity. That's why we have the mayor town halls. I want to hear your solutions. I want to talk to you face to face, address any of your concerns. And what it also does is it gives me the capability and another avenue to be able to reiterate these things that I want to make sure that they know, hey, you're part of the team, you're part of the process, you're part of coming up with these solutions. And if everybody feels like they have a buy-in, it becomes pretty easy.
Yeah, it really does. This is so encouraging to hear this, Brandy, especially in the climate of the things we hear on the news today
Yeah.
and some of the things that we see on social media at the state and federal level.
And I warn local communities. I warn those that vote in my community, as well as when I'm called out to go speak at other communities. We cannot do that at the local level. We have real issues at the local level that need people that have solutions, that have ideas, that have connections to be able to get them solved. If we create that kind of environment at the local level, those people are not going to be willing to step up because, one thing people need to understand as a mayor of a city, I get paid $100 a year. It is a volunteer doing it because they truly care for their community. It is not because of anything else. And so if we create an environment to where if you decide you're going to run, we're going to run your name through the mud. We're going to throw every kind of accusation against you that we can. It's going to cause the people that have these ideas and these solutions to go like, yeah, no, thank you. Like, I mean, why am I going to put myself through that for not to get paid at all? And, to take time away from my family, to take time away from my business and all these things. So we've got to turn that tide so that those people are willing to step up in these positions so that we can turn our communities around.
Well, I am so excited to see what you do throughout your term. What are some of the plans that you have in place that you can share?
Well, what I really want to do is to develop I'm always thinking about once I'm gone, right? What systems, what strategies do I want to make sure are solid that they will outlast me? And so those are the things that I've really concentrated on, developing those systems and those strategies and those plans that the council can adopt so that they continue through. I want to make sure, that we access volunteers. I think that's another area that cities, again, it's that whole siloed effect, so really providing opportunities for that and working with our regional partners to go to our counties and say, hey, you get a lot of our tax dollars, so we really need you chipping in on some of these roads and things. But again, that's been a learning process because I attended a county commissioner's court, and there was a very small town there that kept getting all of this money. So I'm like,
Interesting.
I kept hearing the city's name and they were going, yeah, project approved, project approved. And I'm like, why do we never get anything in Gladewater? Like we're not, And so what I realized through just watching and learning that was that all we needed to do was present the actual project. So not come asking for money, but say, hey, we need your assistance on this project. One thing that we're doing is making sure that we have a couple of projects every year for our counties to assist us on. Making sure that we kind of develop what's called a grant calendar to where we know what grants are coming out strategically with those grants and with the needs that we have. What are we going to pair with those? And just really developing some systems and strategies that far outlast me.
That's so incredible. And it's the things people don't think about, right? That's going to have an impact that people are going to notice and say, oh, Brandy did that. But what you're doing is the real work, which is like, again, laying that foundation that you talked about, like you do with small businesses.
It is a balance. Again, that's the balance I've learned in business, because in business, you've got to balance what I call the senses. You've got to make sure that your business appeals to all the senses while you're making sure that all of those systems and strategies are in place. And so taking those same principles, we've done we're revitalizing our downtown, our parks are being revitalized, these areas that people are running. I'm really coming in and working with our small business owners, making sure that Gladewater is a place that businesses want to come in. We've already established, a couple of ordinances that make it where investors looking in will want to invest in Gladewater where they wouldn't have before. So there's a lot of moving parts and pieces with it that in the long run will really pay off if we can keep mission forward.
Absolutely. I've seen those things happening in downtown Tyler, and the growth that I've seen from those same types of projects that you're talking about, it's amazing. And when you do start attracting the investors to come in, everything else trickles around from that, more bodies moving. So then your
Yeah.
retail spaces, have more foot traffic. And it's really incredible to watch. I know you've got some springtime events that you host in Gladewater. Would you like to promote any of those?
Oh, well, goodness, that needs to have Miss Lois here. She's the one who does all the events. Lois Reed with the Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
We have Gusher Days. That is a big staple for Gladewater. We have the Gladewater Roundup Rodeo. Listen, I know I'm biased, but Gladewater truly, and I've heard this from other people in other communities that came to it is truly one of the best rodeos in East Texas, where it's on the circuit to where, people are winning money and being able to win to the next round. It is one of the oldest rodeos in East Texas, and so it is truly an event to come and be a part of. And we are the antique capital of East Texas, so we have all the antique stores along with other boutiques and restaurants that have come in and entertainment venues. We've really started working on some murals throughout the city as well to create that outdoor art gallery and things like that. We want you to come to Gladewater. We want you to have a great time when you're in Gladewater. We promise that we will be friendly and welcoming and that you will have a great time.
Is there anything else you want to share about maybe how somebody could get in touch with the SBDC?
So you can, if you're in one of our counties, you can go to longviewsbdc.com, and that's how you would get with us. But you can also go to sbdc.com and they will get you with whoever your local representation is.
And then as far as learning more about any of these events that you shared from Gladewater, what is your city website?
cityofgladewater.com. And then I would also say the Gladewater Chamber of Commerce is where to check those events out as well. Follow it. We've got Facebook pages, Instagram, all the good things. So make sure and follow us. And we always have something going on in Gladewater.
That's awesome. Brandy, this has been such a pleasure. I'm so glad that I've had the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. I would love to have you back sometime if you want to come on and talk more about small businesses. It's a topic that I think is ever present. Seems like somebody's going into business every day. I would love for you to come back and just get to know you a little bit better as well.
I would love to.
The Celebrating Women podcast wants to hear from you. Email us a voice message to celebratingwomenpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear your story or the story of an incredible woman you know. Become part of the conversation on social media. Facebook.com/celebratingwomenpodcast. On Instagram, search Celebrating Women Podcast. The Celebrating Women podcast has been presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. Book your appointment today. Stop by the spa in Cumberland Shopping Center or online at handandstonetyler.com. Support the show for as little as $3 per month at celebratingwomenpodcast.buzzsprout.com or visit our show notes. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the Celebrating Women podcast.